Hello, guys. Welcome. Gonna be doing more reactions. Or, see what is. All right, let me just double check. I had to make sure.
Yeah, I have a senior in my house, so food safety is a great concern.
And the latest concern, American cucumbers potentially contaminated with salmonella. Company Sunfed Produce has issued a recall for the vegetable, which was sold from mid October to late November,
That's not.
including in British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Ontario.
What's really alarming is we're finding more outbreaks.
And food safety professor Keith Warner says animals are typically the source. Contaminated manure could seep into irrigation systems, eventually bringing pathogens to your food. And despite North America having one of the worst
An accident. I wasn't driving dangerous or anything. We were just coming home from shopping. I was under the speed limit, no distraction. I couldn't say the same for the other car. A street racer smashed us. Came around the corner high speed, lost control. He was completely at fault. Did you get hurt? My wife's dead. My wife is dead. Dun, 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 dun. Hello. Okay, looks like it's working again. You having a bad day? Sorry to hear that. Big. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm happy hopefully my mic stays working again. I was having salmonella from America. Alright. But a lot of that's gonna happen more and more. Companies they're gonna cut on inspection and they're not gonna do anything about keeping these things healthy or clean.
world's longest list of regulations, Warner says food inspection agencies have failed.
The problem we have is taking those regulations and putting them in place. You could even say the pandemic played its own role in it because a lot of inspections were literally virtual.
Consumers tell us the safety of their food is a big concern.
I think they need to have some safety measure to make sure that before it gets to the store, it gets to us, it's checked properly.
Our trust in the agencies that are supposed to protect children and families definitely goes down.
This number of instances where this is happening is concerning.
The fact that there hasn't been any illness reported in Canada yet is probably a good sign, although I will say that illness tends to be a lagging indicator.
Researchers say death from salmonella
Yeah, well, at least Canada has pretty decent healthcare. Worry too much.
is rare, but because the pathogen can survive a large range of conditions, illness is possible. Some of the telltale signs:
Nausea, vomiting, diarrhea.
Cooking food lessens the risk of illness, says Professor Joseph McPhee. But for produce that can't be cooked, don't take a chance.
Yeah, I'm actually worried, especially with my little ones, right?
Noor Rafat, Global News, Toronto.
If you hire Armstrong, Lee, and Baker, you're not going to have to.
What else? Interesting to react to. By KFC after 20. KFC. I don't know why you want. BRB, you gotta take a break. Right, that's fine. Alright. Japan becoming a what is that?
Japan's economy has been stagnant for the past 3 decades, as many know that it has been plunged into what is called the lost decades.
Crazy.
Here's a graph with data that we collected from the World Bank on the nominal GDP of Japan in billions of US dollars. You can clearly see that Japan's economy hasn't grown at all since 1995. As a matter of fact, Japan's GDP back in 1995 was over $5.55 trillion, whereas today, in 2023, it is just at $4.21 trillion. Does this imply that Japan's economy is starting to become poor? Considering that Japan is now entering a phase where its citizens are growing older and giving fewer births, the future of Japan...
I was hurting Japan probably the most. Lots of pensions, failing births. I mean, tourism is helping here and there, but unfortunately, you know, tourists are just helping so much.
Seems like it's going down. Here's another data that shows the GDP per capita of Japan, which is a better indicator to reflect and understand how well Japanese people are performing. As you can also see, the people in Japan today don't seem to be doing better than the people back in 1995. That year, Japan had a GDP per capita of over $44,197, whereas today, it's just $33,834.
That's 11,000.
So, again, does it stand true that Japan and its people are becoming poorer? Well, let's talk about the data that can actually tell us that they are, in fact, getting richer, and other data that showcases their decline. Let's first talk about...
There's a lot of data. Depending on who you are, some of you might be getting higher. I feel like the majority of people still feel behind because just like with Greece or the UK, pumped a lot of money here and there, but insulted.
About GDP and why it's wrong. Let's go back and see the nominal GDP per capita. As you can see, the nominal GDP per capita may have indeed fallen, but that's because of inflation and currency depreciation over the years.
Yep.
Nominal GDP is calculated in current prices, which means it doesn't account for changes in purchasing power or currency exchange rates. Put it simply, nominal GDP tells us the value of goods and services produced in a country based on today's prices, but it doesn't account for how much those goods and services are actually worth to the people living there. This is where the concept called GDP, purchasing power parity, comes in. Unlike nominal GDP, GDP purchasing power parity adjusts for differences in the cost of living and exchange rates between countries. It shows the real value of goods and services produced in Japan, based on what people can actually afford within their economy. Here's a graph to show you the GDP purchasing power parity per capita with data that we collected from the World Bank. As you can see, the purchasing power parity of Japan has actually been rising. In 1995, back then, Japan had a purchasing power parity of just $23,859, whereas today in the latest year is now over $50,206. This data better reflects the real economic well-being of Japanese citizens. It is an indicator that indicates that the average Japanese person has become wealthier in terms of what they can buy and their overall economic capacity. This means that while international comparisons in dollar terms might make Japan look stagnant, domestically, people's purchasing power has actually improved significantly.
Very, very good.
On top of the purchasing power parity, it is well known globally that Japan is still a technological leader. Indeed, while its international standing has declined, especially as competitors like China come up, Japan is still ahead in many ways. Here's a graph to tell you just how far ahead Japan is in technology. Here, as you can see on the table, is data that we gathered from the Statistics Bureau of Japan. It shows the technology balance of payments, also known as technology trade. The Statistics Bureau says that it is the export or import of technology by business enterprise with other countries, such as patents, expertise, and technical guidance. As you can clearly see from the graph, Japan's technology exports are so much more than their imports. In the latest year available in 2022, their technology exports are over 4,995 billion Japanese yen, with imports only amounting to 713 billion yen. This simply means that Japanese technology products are being bought in many parts of the world. Here's another table to show you the PCT international applications by country. It is a table that shows the number of Patent Cooperation Treaty international applications filed by different countries. These applications indicate the level of innovation and technological
UK, you're so down there. Even France is beating your ass.
Advancements in each nation. As you can see, the number one country globally for this category is China, then the US, and then Japan. Japan is ways ahead when it comes to PCT international applications as compared to the fourth country, which is South Korea, and is far ahead against all other nations except China and the US. Why having a high amount of PCT international applications is so important for Japan's economy is because it reflects Japan's ability to innovate and remain competitive in the global market.
You don't need 45 trillion operations per second to listen to music. But if
PCT international applications are essentially a measure of how many patents a country's businesses and inventors are seeking to protect globally. This indicates a strong focus on creating new products, technologies, and ideas that can drive future economic growth. Finally, one of the most important parts of Japan's economy is its trade. Some people now believe that Japan's trade dynamics have shifted rapidly as the country exports less and imports more. One of the reasons behind this cause is the country's energy industry. Japan has slowly become very dependent on energy imports in recent years. Here's a...
Let's see. Energy going down. Volume going up. Coals there. Gas, hydrogen, fuel, kind of there. Hydro. You think they're being surrounded by the ocean? They do more hydro. I know they're afraid about nuclear things, but that back. Renewables, they can do more with natural gas.
Graph on the domestic supply of primary energy in Japan. As you can see, the energy self-sufficiency has dropped massively from 2010 to 2022. As the table clearly outlines, a big part of this drop is because Japan has reduced its usage of nuclear energy. Clearly due to the Fukushima nuclear disaster in 2011, which led to a nationwide shutdown of nuclear power plants. Hence, while Japan was still dependent on imports in 2010, it wasn't as big as it is in the latest year of 2022. Due to this shutdown, The imports in Japan for energy had then skyrocketed, eroding their balance of payments. While imports for energy have increased, what has stayed consistent is the fact that Japan is still a country that records surplus for its current account balance. A current account balance surplus is basically an indication that a country is earning more from its exports, investments, and other income sources abroad than it is spending on imports and international obligations.
That's really good, man.
Here's a graph with the data that we gathered from the World Bank. As you can see, Japan stretching back to 1996, the latest year available to 2023, their current account balance of payments in current US dollars is positive and worth billions of dollars every single year. This continued surplus in the current account balance then reflects one of the strong economic standings of Japan.
Dipped down, but came back in 2022, back again 2023. So it's
now that we have an understanding of why their economy is still strong, let's talk about the problems of the country. We've discussed previously, and as many already commonly know about the problems of Japan, its debt and demographics. The country's debt may cause issues for the future of Japan, and its aging population may strain the overall well-being of its people. Here's a table with data gathered from the Ministry of Finance in Japan about their expenditures of general account. These are the annual government expenditures allocated to various sectors, and as you can see, Japan's expenditure has changed rapidly over the past 24 years. Back in 2000, the country was focused on education and science, as well as public works. Their spending for that entire year was over 89 trillion yen. Yet, as you can see, in 2024, which is the initial budget set out, has seen a decline in education and science spending, and a decline in public works spending, but an increase in social security. Put simply, they are investing less in their people's education and the country's infrastructure, and putting more money into their aging population. This is a big problem for Japan, and if this continues, then we may likely see less innovation and more spendings for the elderly. This is why Japan must find a way to fix its aging population, either by encouraging births or opening up immigration, both of which seem to be a big problem for Japan. So, as you can see, Japan is still performing well, especially in technology.
Is there anything Japan can do to improve their birth rate?
And its overall economy, but its problems today are going to be a heavy burden in the future. But anyway, do let us know what you think. Thanks for watching.
Why Japan's yen?
The Japanese yen has been sliding fast against the dollar in recent years. Here's a graph to show you just how much it slid against the dollar since 2020. As you can clearly see, the yen has depreciated in value against the dollar from approximately 100 yen to a dollar in 2020 to over 150 yen to a dollar as of the latest value. It even once reached over 160 yen to a dollar in June of 2024. Some of you might think that this is bad, right? A sliding yen, after all, means that goods and services are going to be cheaper in Japan for foreign tourists. If you visit Japan and spend money there, you're bound to save a lot compared to previous.
Right, that's why I want to go to Japan, man. You can save, you can make a lot. You stretch your money out there a lot. Like your USD to yen, a lot of money there. You can go down south to Kyoto, Osaka.
Years, with the yen weakening from 100 to 150 yen per USD. The same amount of dollars now buys significantly more yen, making purchases in Japan comparatively cheaper for foreign visitors. Whether that is food, electronics, and whatever else there is to buy in Japan.
By that
You
ramen.
might think this is bad for the Japanese.
But we all know everyone's going to the freaking konbinis, 7-Elevens, Lawson, or Family Market, just eating up all those onigiris, man.
Economy,
you guys.
as a weaker currency, often signals economic challenges. One of the ways you can even see this is through the gross domestic product of Japan. Here's a graph with data that we collected from the World Bank. As you can see, the nominal GDP of Japan has gone down drastically since 2020, despite the fact that it reported growth in 2021, 2022, and 2023. This fall is largely because of the weak yen. Whenever a country's currency declines, it reduces the value of its GDP when measured in international terms, particularly against stronger currencies like the US dollar. But let me tell you why it's actually the exact opposite. A weak yen isn't really bad for Japan. Sure, there are reasons out there that showcase how a weaker currency is bad for a country, but it's actually good for Japan. And here's why.
Why is that?
The first reason can be traced back decades ago. Back on September 22nd, 1985, a gathering occurred in the Plaza Hotel in New York City. The participants were the G5 nations, United States, Japan, West Germany, France, and the United Kingdom. And there they signed what was known as the Plaza Accord. The Plaza Accord was an agreement that aimed to address the significant trade imbalances of the time, particularly the United States' growing trade deficit with Japan and West Germany.
Whoa! Whoa, 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 whoa. Stop.
Here's a graph to showcase just how bad the trade deficits were from the United States. This graph is the current account balance, BOP, in current US dollars. A current account balance shows the difference between a country's exports and imports of goods, services, and capital. A negative balance, or a deficit, means the country is importing more than it is exporting, while a surplus means the opposite. As you can already tell in the graph, the current account balance of the United States was dropping fast between the years of 1980.
Stalemate here. You have anything beyond that? After the 90s, Japan economy blew up and stagnated.
To 1987. This suggests that the United States was facing a growing trade imbalance during this period, with imports far outweighing exports. And it was known back then that Japan, along with other nations like West Germany, were the beneficiaries of these. You can tell that from the total reserves of Japan itself. You can see from 1960 to 1988, Japan's total reserves skyrocketed from $1.95 billion to a massive $106 billion.
How much is the reserve
and
now?
An important reason for this rise in Japan's total reserves was because of its export-driven economic model. They were basically exporting so much goods to the entire world, ranging from its automotive sector, driven by companies like Toyota, and its electronics industry, driven by companies like Toshiba. Now, the Plaza Accord was aimed to balance all these. The results of the Plaza Accord, after it was signed, was that Japan's national currency, the yen, appreciated sharply against the US dollar. Here's a graph with data published by the World Bank on the official exchange rate per year. You can already see that in 1985, the yen was trading at 238 yen to a dollar in that year. And after it was signed, it plummeted to over 168 yen to a dollar in 1986, and further down as years went by. The reason why they wanted to appreciate the yen in value was because of all these trade deficits incurred by the United States. But the results were actually tragic, very tragic for Japan. How so? Well, the first reason is simple and easy to see: exports. Japan was exporting a lot of goods to the United States, and a simple reason why they were exporting successfully was because their goods were cheaper to buy than US-made products. And that's because their yen was trading at such a low value compared to the dollar. A weaker yen, after all, meant that Japanese goods were more affordable in international markets. For instance, if you were to buy a Toyota car in the 1980s when the yen was cheaper, the price difference compared to US-made cars would be significant. For example, a Toyota car manufactured in Japan that would cost 1,500,000 yen in the 1980s, and at an exchange rate of 240 yen to $1, which was prior to the Plaza Accord, would only cost $6,240.
Only $6,000
However,
for a new car?
after the Plaza Accord, the yen appreciated sharply. Let's say the exchange rate changed to 120 yen to $1. That very same car would now cost over $12,500, which is
That's
double
still
the
good,
price.
man.
This means that Japanese companies
I'll get that
are
car.
now less competitive compared to other companies. These impacts were then one of the causes for Japan's economic decline on the world stage. They could no longer compete against countries that could provide cheaper goods. This is why, if the yen were to become weaker, if it were to go back to 150 to 160 yen, or even 200 yen, it would actually be good for Japan. This will make Japanese companies more competitive. This will allow companies like Toyota, Sony, and Panasonic to regain a competitive edge in international markets, boosting their revenues and revitalizing Japan's export-driven economy. Now, that's not the only reason why the yen being weak is better for the Japanese economy. There's another important reason, and that's tourism. Foreign tourism contributes a lot to the Japanese.
Yeah, I mean, tourism is great. Before first, like, I mean, I was a tourist back in 2015. Loved it. I want to go back again. Spend more money in Japan, buy more shit, all that. But man, so many tourists are making themselves such assholes, making Japan like hate them. I put like restrictions on who drink alcohol, what can you do on a subway, who can visit a shrine, what part of Kyoto you can go to.
Economy. Here's a graph of the Japanese visitor arrivals by year with data published by the Japan Tourism Statistics. The data here, however, had obviously been damaged by the COVID-19 pandemic. But one of the key reasons why the tourism industry has bounced back big and fast is because of the cheap yen. As we also mentioned at the start of the video, a cheap yen is good for the international tourism of Japan, as it makes travel to Japan more affordable for foreign visitors. When tourists convert their home currency to yen, they get more value for their money, allowing them to spend more on accommodations, dining, shopping, and cultural experiences. This influx of foreign spending directly supports local businesses, boosts employment in the hospitality and service sectors, and contributes to Japan's overall economic growth. Finally, the most important reason why a weak yen is good is because it stimulates inflation. Yes, inflation might not be a famous concept that many people see, But in Japan, it's actually needed. And that's because the country has been plagued with deflation, not just for years, but for decades. Here's a graph of Japan's inflation, consumer prices annually, as reported by the World Bank. You can see that from the 1990s to 2021, inflation has either been at less than 1% or even negative.
Yeah. At least, I don't, well, they have deflation. I'm guessing, have you ever had stagflation? What countries have suffered? I'm gonna look at it.
It was only in select years like 2014, 2008, and 1997 that inflation rose to more than 1%. Yet, as you can see in both 2022 and 2023, inflation had finally picked up to 2.5 and 3.3%, respectively. This was something Japan needed for years, as deflation is often blamed for its prolonged economic stagnation. Deflation discourages spending and investment, as consumers and businesses delay purchases in the hope that prices will drop further. This vicious cycle reduces economic activity, shrinks corporate revenues, and places downward pressure on wages.
All right, yeah.
Then, one more reason why the stimulation of inflation is good is because of Japan's debt.
Yep.
As the world's largest holders of government debt to GDP, as you can already see from this graph right here, Japan's economy might be in
250 billion? I think it's trillion.
a bad position in the future. But if inflation were to rise steadily, it would erode the real value of Japan's massive public debt over time. This is because inflation reduces the purchasing power of money, meaning that the debt becomes less expensive to repay in real terms. For a country like Japan, where public debt exceeds 250% of GDP, this is a critical benefit of moderate inflation. But then again, we didn't really mention how a weak yen actually stimulates inflation. It does so through several key mechanisms, primarily by increasing the cost of imports. Japan relies heavily on imported goods, particularly energy, raw materials, and food. When the yen weakens, the prices of these imports rise in yen terms. This higher cost is passed down to businesses and consumers, causing overall price levels in the economy to increase, effectively driving inflation. But anyway, do let us know what you think. Thanks for watching.
I was just feeling sick. And it was the worst day. Mom was crying.
Shut up. Yeah, experience tank. Countries face stagflation. Also, thankfully, alright.
Japan's economy has
That's MP5. Oh, fully automatic. I will MP5. I need to watch one with Dan to Dan. I think watch the first 7 episodes. I've seen episode 7, so I know that one. Yeah, he's gonna meet. That's all the last. See him watch freak out.
And that's why you tell people where you're going.
Basically, you fucked up.
And try not to get into trouble with druggies and drug dealers. Anyways, hello and welcome to another Let's Play. Me, Move6 of Echo. Before we start, if you're interested in playing this game, then you could get it for free on itch.io. But if you want to support the people that made this game and are making others, you can go to their Patreon, where it's $3 a month. So, on the last Let's Play, we were continuing our morning and found out that Leo decided to confront Micah, Jeremy, I think his name is, and Clint, and was beating up Clint and Jeremy while Micah was hiding, and then Brian appeared and was really beating up Leo until we tried to intervene, but then that didn't mean diddly. Micah hit him over the head and then ran off with Brian chasing after him. And now we're back from all that. Woof. So let's reset our face. And continue. God, you're heavier than I remember. Only where it counts. A wry smile is visible on his muzzle, the battered wolf clearly still loopy from all the blows to the head. Or at least, that's what I hope the explanation is.
No, it's gonna be much worse.
Squeezing my side as I struggle to keep him upright. With my free hand, I dig around in my pocket and search for the Echo Motel keycard. The task is made all the more difficult by the pawing ministrations of Leo, who I keep having a bad away. For fuck's sakes, Leo, I'm genuinely pissed at you. We almost died, and you blew our chance to find Carl easily. I don't even know what I'm gonna begin to explain. How I'm gonna begin to explain this to all the cops. All to the cops. To all the cops! I swear I can read. Leo makes a dismissive noise. I'll handle it. You don't gotta worry.
No, Leo, you can't just handle it. You already have some cops after you. Now you gotta fight with drug dealers. You got beaten up. You're bleeding. Micah could be dead for all.
I prop Leo up against the wall, giving him an incredulous look. Does he not even process what would have happened if Micah and I hadn't stepped in to help him? Leo, you just pissed off some kind of trailer park jug kingpin who knows exactly who you are. That should concern the hell out of you. Nah.
All
There's a
911.
distant look in his eyes.
All the cops.
Before I have time to further chastise an idiot for he's being, I hear the voice call out from behind me. Hey! Jenna's holding a small plastic bag in the words, thank you, printed on it over and over again in bold red lettering. Chase, where were you? What's going on? Leo's expression goes a little more flat, his tail moving behind him. Jenna. The wolf greets her curtly, eliciting a perplexed face from the fox. It is weird that he hasn't said I smell like her. Or she smells like me. Well, maybe we'll see. I'll leave for 20 minutes, and of course Leo is now beaten and shirtless. She gives me a stern look. What happened? I let out a sigh, pinching the tip of my nose before letting my paw flop down to my side. Leo tried to interrogate Tetanus Valley crew by himself. And I was doing fine until that squeaky voice fat ass showed up. Brian. I clarify. Oh shit. She reaches into her pocket, taking her own keycard and sliding it into the door. Come on, let's get you inside. There's some basic medical supplies in the bathroom. I'll see what I can scrounge up. I think he's got a concussion? Yeah, I don't need to tell you that. You shouldn't let him fall asleep. I'm not sure if that is an actual thing you're supposed to do.
Oh yeah, no.
Common misconception.
That is true. If you have a concussion, do not fall asleep. That will make it. Another thing is, don't blow your nose. Your nose is bleeding. You gotta plug it up. You gotta plug up your nose. Because this happens a lot, I used to watch a lot of UFC back in the day. My brother would watch, like, not just UFC, but he'd watch the rookie players, go to like training camp and learn how to react, to blows and fix your stuff. You do not blow your nose. Plug up your nose with cotton balls, and then let a doctor fix the nose bone, pop it back into place. That's for your brain. You do not fall asleep. That make it worse. You gotta sit down and rest. But do not fall asleep. Stuff elevated. Drink water, fluid. Maybe a light ice pack.
Conception, because I've heard things like it doesn't matter, and like how it kind of came up is like, hey, people who hit their heads can sometimes be drunk, drunk, you lose your balance and all that stuff, you hit your head, and then people who might be so drunk that they fall over and hit their head might also be suffering from alcohol poisoning. So, yeah. Anyways, I'm right here, you can talk to me. I would if I think it would do any good, but you obviously don't listen to anything we say, as evidenced by this latest stunt.
Leo.
God, Leo, why are you so stupid? You're an adult. Janet pushes the door open, and I help Leo inside. I'm trying not to look directly at him, but judging by the tenseness of his muscles, I can tell he's definitely not digging Jenna's scolding. I walk Leo over to one of the beds and help him sit down. Careful, so he doesn't smush his own tail. Easy now, big guy. Oh, is that what they call Bluey's kids call the dad every now and then? Big fella, that's it. The wolf palpably softens at the words, and I think I catch a slight, sad smile pass toward my direction. Despite all this idiocy, we did just survive near death together. He pats my lower back some, just as Jenna shuts the door behind us. I should probably text TJ. He's doing those sports medicine courses, so he might be able to help us out a bit. He left to continue the search with Flynn after he didn't show up. Though honestly, I think we should drive him to the urgent care down in Payton. Oh, that's gonna be a heavy bill. I look up at Leo, anticipating his response before he even speaks. I'm fine. Leo. I said I'm fine. Yeah?
No, you're not.
You shouldn't be babying over me while Carl's still out there. You're right. We shouldn't be having to do this at all. Jenna walks past us both, with a glaring look of maternal disappointment before heading into the bathroom. She does drop the bag of food next to us on the bed, though. Ordinarily, I'd be concerned about getting grease on the covers, but considering the circumstances, I pull out a styrofoam container from the bag and prop it open. Yeah, this is true because at least the main character hasn't eaten all day. I'm sorry, give me a sec. Inside are two grilled cheese sandwiches with toast, eggs, and bacon pulled off to the side, pushed off. It looks kind of haphazardly put together, and my grumbling stomach doesn't mind. I hand Leo a grilled cheese and take some bacon for myself. You feeling dizzy? Any sudden sharp head pains? Just some throbbing. But that's about it. About a part of the course when I'm around you. It grins for a flicker of a second before taking a huge bite of the sandwich. I can't help but stare at him wide-eyed, my face burning.
Still making.
It's not that I'm super offended by the flirting or anything, but now, of all times to do it? Leo. Leo swallows down a mouthful of bread and cheese. Judging by his expression, he doesn't seem to be a big fan of the taste. Yeah? Sorry, just getting sleepy. I reach up, clutching his shoulder. Hey, come on, don't pass out on us. You know you can't do that now. Jen returns with some hydrogen peroxide gauze and what looks like a bottle of acetaminophen. I sent out a message to the group chat, letting them know what's going on. The signal was being kind of weird for a second, but it said sent. Jenna sits down beside the wolf with her can of disinfectant, to which Leo visibly recoils. I can do it. Just give it to me. The Fennec's brow furrows, and she actually pulls back the can. No. That's not how you treat me right now. Okay, music's on, that doesn't sound good. Like you treat me like shit? Yeah? What? I know, you've been talking ill of me behind my back, trying to keep Chase away.
Let me show you how to
Oh,
block this
fucking
ad.
hell.
First, you're
God
gonna click
damn
on the
these
video,
fucking
and then
ads.
download pod. It's an ad
Maybe I
blocker
should.
that's
I need like a fucking ad blocker, dog.
Oh, buddy. Jenna stares dumbfounded at Leo. I'm absolutely baffled by your priorities right now. I'm going to assume this is the head trauma speaking. So what if it is? You know it's true. Leo shifts his gaze to me. She has, hasn't she? I sigh. I really wasn't prepared to deal with this confrontation right now. I probably should have spent more time with you to make sure you didn't do anything like you just did. No, Chase, this is not your fault. The sooner Leo realizes he's the one making mistakes, the sooner we can rally and figure out where we're going to go, what we're going to do next. For Carl, remember him? The person we're actually trying to find? I wince, having agreed with the first part of what Jenna said, but it's definitely gone a step too far. Jenna, we're all concerned about Carl. I take the antiseptic spray and begin shaking the can before spritzing it on a few of Leo's wounds. The wolf barely even reacts. His pain tolerance was always pretty high growing up. He'd win pretty much every game of slap hands or punch you, punch me that Flynn or Carl devised. I used to find that sort of toughness attractive. Guys, let's focus. Jenna.
I mean, he was also a football player. He did play football. He was a quarterback. Probably got hit a lot. Concussion.
Holds up the flat of her palm toward me, speaking up with curt tone. Chase, you don't really believe Leo's doing this off the genuine goodness of his heart, right? That he has some deep compassion for Carl? Hell, I've spoke with Carl online these past few years. Leo basically stopped talking to him the moment you left for college. That is 3 whole years of not giving a damn. Like, can we not do it with the guy that's probably got a concussion and is probably gonna be pretty angry and stuff? Just saying. I love you, Jenna. Time, place. Sorry. I mean, he deserves it, but still. Leo's jowls pull back along the corners of his mouth for a moment before he reaches up and clutches his temple. That's really hypocritical of you to say. Don't. Jenna looks up at the ceiling, her usual cool.
I understand she cut off her family, but her family's a piece. Still talks to Carl, talks to Chase. I don't know if he talks to Flynn, DJ. He's in another. I think which one? He goes to another he goes a Christian school. Them two both go to Dayton, Pueblo. He went to community college for a little bit and dropped out. Flynn went from working in a warehouse to working in the hall, and Carl just smokes weed all day. Rich kid who smokes weed. We feel sorry for him a little bit. Got everything you want, Carl, man.
And clicked demeanor gone. It's clear Leo's actions have pushed her past the point of calm understanding. Don't what? Don't stop you from laying into me while you're guilty of the same? Yeah, you left everyone behind, didn't ya? Jenna looks stunned for a moment before her brow furrows once again. Oh, yes, Leo. A complete, unjustified decision. Unrelenting neglect, abuse, and traumatic influence is no reason to distance yourself from the sacred nuclear family unit. It's not often that Jenna outright expressed that extent on what went on in her tiny house growing up. Actually, what was the whole thing? Yeah.
Abuse.
We all figured she wasn't keen on representing herself as someone to be pitied, so we generally didn't pry. Her bringing this up now definitely means this is a touchier subject than Leo knows is, and Leo knows this. After this outburst and your latest behavior, is it any wonder that we don't reach out to you much anymore? Leo unfocuses his gaze, shifts from Jenna to me, then back again. Chase talks to me. I squeeze Leo's shoulder. Guys, Carl. Let's focus on Carl. What are we gonna do about him? I flash Jenna a pleading look. Yeah, he still messages me from time to time. I squeeze harder. He says he misses me, and that he can't wait to see me again. That he misses us being together. What? Jenna peers at Leo incredulously, her arms folded across her chest.
Is this true, Chase? You texting behind his back?
When no one says anything in response, she unfolds her arms, her expression softening some. Wait, seriously? Her attention shifts to me. You've been texting Leo that you want to get back together this whole time? No? Not really. I mean, I barely text him. It's always late at night. Leo speaks with a droll monotone. My phone flashes, and it's you. I'm having to assume this is Shadow Chase and not actual Chase. You bring up all the old times we messed around, and you want to do it again. You getting kind of intense too. You get kind of intense too. Like last time when you talked about, you know, how you wanted me in you again. Leo, for fuck's sake. My face absolutely burns. I want to just throw out my paws over his muzzle and shut him up. How could you be even bringing this up at a time like this? Or bringing it up at all?
But did you text him? Are you texting him behind everyone's back?
Jenna's brow is raised high now. Before she can say anything, Leo speaks again, gesturing forward with jittery movements. I'm not fucking lying, yeah? I can show you the text. I saved them. You got rid of them the next morning. So wait, is he telling the truth? Every time. A dull throb pounded through my head, the intrusive thoughts as pointed as Jenna's gaze, which is very much aimed at me right now. I mean, I guess if the shadow chase is saying that we did that, then okay. They made you feel guilty. Out of everything. That's what you feel guilty about? Okay. Wow. Neither of you told me any of this. I practically want to scream now. I mean, if Chase was doing that, then I'd put it on him. If for Leo, I don't know. If Chase is sexting Leo, I don't think Leo needs to disclose it to Jenna because, I mean, Leo has no idea what's going on. Carl, let's focus on Carl. Anything to get the spotlight off me. Well, it really wasn't pertinent. It was just a couple of times over the span of 3 years. Chase. It is. At least, somewhat. She hesitates for a second, trying to find some gentle phrasing as she shifts her weight from one foot to the other. Not the nitty-gritty details, of course, unless we're all particularly inebriated. She looks between the two of us. At the very least, it partially explains Leo's behavior. Though I'm not saying it justifies it. There you go again. I'm right here, and you're still talking right over me. He hunches forward some. You're injured, Leo. Plus, your words and actions have been exceptionally irrational lately, so forgive me if you aren't given a spot at the grown-up table. Leo ignores her. Is that getting darker? It seems darker for a second. Leo ignores her, beginning to mumble. At first, I was confused. Why are you acting like this? Trying to take away my chance to make things right. You've always been cruel, but never this bad, yeah? Cruel? Jenna lets out an amused but exhausted noise, pinching the bridge of her muzzle. Are you implying...
Yeah, it is getting much darker.
That I'm stealing Chase from you? As if he were able to object an object to be conquered and taken? That is a regressive... Leo starts talking in the same deadpan voice before Jenna finishes. You know what you're doing? No, wait, you know what you're doing. Attitude towards someone you claim you understand so deeply. Jenna continues speaking, even throughout the wolf's words. But hey, that's just who you are. Leo, please, relax. Stop talking. I begin wrapping gauze around some of the disinfected wounds. It's hard to tell and difficult to focus with what's going on, but some of these might require some stitches. His large head turns to look at me, and his pupils are hidden behind his half-open eyelids. Just close my eyes, fall asleep. Wait, no, don't do that. And then you're right there with me again. Jenna's nostrils flare, exacerbated. I'm bound to smack him awake. I frown. Don't do that either.
Stupid ads.
You came down to Echo to surprise me the other week. I thought that was really nice of you. Showed you cared. Have no clue what he's talking about. For the past few weeks, I've been cramming for midterms and streaming old movies with Vincent in my dorm room. For a moment, I think Jenna gives me a slightly accusatory look, but doesn't say anything. Instead, she grabs a few strips of bacon before walking to the other side of the room and checking her phone. Okay, the signal's completely messed up. My bars are bouncing up and down, like they're on a trampoline. I'm guessing this is when Echo's going full crazy mode. I hear this buzzing sound. She holds her phone higher, squinting at it. Meanwhile, I'm trying to keep Leo upright as I wrap a particularly nasty looking gash on his arm. He must have cut himself when he fell down. Maybe a tetanus shot is in order when he gets to the doctor too. You're kinda thin, which is cute, but you should eat more. I was gonna have Pops cook you some hamburgers with the jalapeno ketchup you liked. He's not really making much sense at the moment, but at least the focus isn't on me anymore. I have a feeling I'm gonna get a bit of scolding from Jenna later though. It would be interesting to play this game if you say you're straight, you know? I always thought Leo's dad's hamburgers were kinda iffy, but I never wanted to be rude. The goatee though, you shaving it was kinda funny. You were so proud of that thing. But it was like you were doing everything you could to be cute for me. Jenna's frowning deeply at her phone right now. Whether it's because of that what Leo's saying or something on her screen isn't clear. Without looking, Leo brings up a giant paw and squeezes the end of my chin. I quickly push it away, and he seems surprised for a moment when he feels the untrimmed scruft. Huh? Is that really you, Chase? I catch Jenna peering pointedly at the wolf before glancing back to her phone. I'm thinking maybe we should start driving to the clinic now. I'm not even sure if the others have got my texts, and the stupid phone can barely buffer the messaging app. I even tried both it and the standard SMS. I reach into my pocket and pull out my phone. A spot where the bars are indicating service and Wi-Fi aren't there anymore. At least at first. I think I see them flicker back for a second before disappearing again. I've never seen it.
Things are going really bad.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi's messed up too. I press my thumb over the power button. I guess I'll try to turn it off and on again. Jenna frowns. Sorry, it's one of those reading odds. Then I suppose there's no point checking my laptop. She lets out a long exhale before shoving her phone back into her pocket and looking at me. Before I give up entirely, let me try your phone real quick. You've always had the best signal. Oh, is she trying to snoop? I mean, people are it's around the time people start going crazy, but I don't know. Trust. That is, unless you've got something on there you'd rather not show me. Her tone is idle and nonchalant, but her words are definitely meant as a jab. Hey, come on. I let go of Leo, giving the Finnick my best annoyed look. I can explain all this later. It's just been bad timing with... And then Leo goes still. I turn to look into his eyes and notice they're still open. Okay, that's weird. They've never had animation before.
Well, that's not really
There's
animation.
something behind him. Hey. What? You can move! You have limbs! I step back. Leo mumbles something inaudible. The figure behind him stands still, his body blurred and black, like the light of the room won't touch it. It's like staring at a funhouse mirror, except the thing in front of me isn't following my movements as I back further and further away. There's a gasp from the corner of the room.
I forgot who said it. I don't know if it was Vivian Jade or Keith Ballard that, hey, made this you know, maybe anime. It literally was just single like drawings put back to back to back to back to make this.
Chase? Jenna's voice comes after a few seconds of silence. What is that? She speaks in half yell, half whisper. I don't know. I respond without thinking. The figure still stares at me. As I back away, I notice its socketed eyes follow me without it ever moving its head. My foot catches the edge of a suitcase and I have to quickly grab the dresser so I don't tumble over. A second sharp, breathe between my teeth, my heart pounding. No reaction. Seconds having passed, and this thing is still here. Leo stirs, but only somewhat. His eyes roll back into his head, and he turns slightly towards the direction of the doppelganger. Only then does he begin to move as well. It rests his shadowy, furred paw on Leo's own. Don't touch him? I wince at the words leaving my mouth, spoken without thought. Chase, don't. Why? The voice is garbled and sounds nothing like me. I wonder if this is connected to the voice that the main character in the smoke room was hearing when he was sleeping. Because, like, there's a bad dream where he's being hung and he's hearing a radio noise words. Like the clasp soundbite from an old cassette tape. Just don't hurt him. Leo lays there, corked out and helpless. It's such a contrast from the fumbling, fuming predator striking at Brian I saw just 30 minutes ago. You've hurt him plenty. No. I try to swallow, finding my throat dry. Leo's lips move again.
Yeah, it has that little radio sound effect, like it's coming through an old timey radio, especially like, you know, maybe on the stereo. Little stereo. Like from the Bronson's car. That's what I'm guessing.
And this time I can hear him clearly. I love you. Love you too. He speaks in a voice, this time, crystal clear with no distortion. The affectation is slightly perturbed, like what are these words sometimes? And I realize it's how I sounded when I responded to Leo earlier. The shadowy facade fades into the surroundings. Until it's completely gone. So I wasn't going crazy when it seemed to get darker. I can feel the goosebumps beneath my fur subside, and breathing is somehow easier all of a sudden, the air less thick. Leo sits up, still in a sleepy daze. He clutches at his paw, feeling nothing there, confused, sad expression crossing his white face. I finally look over to Jenna, who's backed up against the bathroom door. She rubs her eyes, seemingly looking on in disbelief. Neither of us say anything, trying to process what the hell that was. It felt like a dream, but one I could actually feel. The room itself had a sort of ozony smell to it, but that's completely gone now. Surprisingly, Leo's the first to speak. Thank you, Chase. He says, still looking at his paw. What? It's all I can say. One of Leo's ears flicks, and he turns his attention back to me. For being here for me. Jenna walks up, touching the space.
Look at Jenna. I'm really scared. Like, thank you to Ghost, Shadow Chase. But
where the doppelganger was moments ago. What the fuck? She reaches down, grasping her wrists and checking her pulse, pinching herself a few times while she's at it. Was I drugged? You saw that too, right, Chase? I nod, trying to speak out, only by croaking sound. But only a croaking sound comes from my throat at first. I cough, then try again. I saw it. I think that was the thing from my dream. Oh, no. No, 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 no. Jenna turns, walking back towards the bathroom door. God, Chase, don't say that. The thought clearly appears to unnerve her. I'm sorry, but that was real. There has to be an explanation for whatever that was. I'm about ready to start looking for hidden cameras here. I glance down at my suitcase and spot a familiar orange hardbox container that I keep my camera equipment in. If only I'd gotten whatever that was on film. I exhale, noticing my legs are still shaking. It's all so familiar. We should probably get out of here. Agreed. I'm gonna go grab my stuff and pack your trunk. You think we should leave? Yes. I need to get back to Pueblo and take a few mental health days. We'll finish packing, pick up TJ, and drop Leo off at the clinic. His dad can take him home later. Leo picks at his freely wrapped bandages freshly. Why did it touch him? I need to find Carl. Gina says nothing to Leo's insistence, the fennec shoving her dirty clothes into a garbage bag. Leo, I don't really know what more we can do. I'll handle it, and then you can come back. His red eyes meet mine for the first time in a while. I'm struck by the level of compassion in them. For a second, it reminds me of the best moments of our relationship. With my heart still thudding in my ears, my legs weak, I manage to force a smile towards the dazed wolf. Right. Of course. Doctor first, though. I'm about ready to check myself in, too. He cants his head, peering at me curiously. I'll find Carl. Don't worry. There's a knocking at the window. Awkward taps, followed by a crooning falsetto voice. Is that the, H? Carl, I found Carl. Well, even though that's not a change in scenery, I think we'll leave a cliffhanger. And if you're like, Game Wolf, that is rude, and also let me just tilt this way. Ooh, can I just do it ever so slightly? This controller right here? Oh, this controller here I've seen many times before.
Alright. Oh, he's gonna end it? Alright, let's good ending.
Throughout Telltale's The Walking Dead universe, there are many situations that have happened in the story where we think, I wonder what would have happened if things were set up differently. With this, the thing that keeps getting brought up, especially in Telltale's The Walking Dead, is what if there were certain characters that were either still alive or simply missing in action? What would have happened if they were in the story for a little while longer? The character that I want to talk about today is Molly, who we first get introduced in Season 1, Episode 4, Around Every Corner. After Lee and the group decide to loot the mansion they stumbled upon, they decide to loot the rest of the mansion while Lee and Kenny head to the docks to see if they can find a boat. While in search of a working boat, they stumble upon a stranger that was looting. After some discourse, they then get introduced to Molly, the woman who was the cause of why the bells were ringing earlier on in the episode, in which she uses those bells to loot nearby buildings. Anyways, the group end up leaving because of the gunshot
Yeah, I think I remember Molly now.
from Kenny, and so Kenny, Molly, and Clementine leave to head back to the mansion, while
It was
Lee
alright.
is there as well via the sewer system. Everyone arrives to the mansion safely. Everyone's inside except for Clementine. Lee gets concerned, and so he searches around the house as well as outside to see if he can find her. Lee thankfully finds Clementine in the shed, but upon finding her inside, Clementine shows Lee what she found, that being a boat. The group come together to form a plan as to where they would find the medicine, find parts for the boat, and other supplies to help benefit them. They soon find out that Crawford is going to be their best bet when it comes to getting that supplies. The group head out and arrive at Crawford. Molly, the whole time as to why she's with them, is really to get a spot on the boat in exchange for saving Lee, Clementine, and Kenny. The group head inside, and with the plan they came up with, everyone goes to their designated areas to get the stuff they need. Lee ends up being with Molly to get a battery at the nearby automotive shop in the school. Despite going through some high stressful moments, they both make it out. But before they bring the battery back to the main room, Molly decides to take the battery with her while she goes and looks for something else in the meantime, that way she doesn't get left out in the group. As Lee and the group do their thing in retrieving the other pieces of supplies, Lee runs into Molly again and notices that she has a picture in which she tries to keep hidden from Lee. Lee mentions to Molly that she lied to him about her not being associated with Crawford. Thus, Molly goes on to say that she used to live in Crawford with her sister, until Crawford's rules got strict to the point where anyone who couldn't earn their keep was a liability and had to go. Unfortunately, Molly wasn't able to make it in time to retrieve her sister since Crawford took her away. And we know that what Molly said about her trying to take care of her sister as much as possible in any way is true, since we witnessed from the tapes, these tapes being retrieved by Lee when trying to help Krista and Vernon open the medicine safe, we see that she had a sort of sexual deal with the doctor that used to secure the medical supplies. We do see later that this deal eventually ended as the leader of Crawford, Oberson, was keen on checking on the inventory, and so the doc decided it was best to end it. Obviously in the tape, Molly is now furious as she now wasn't able to supply her sister for medicine, as told by Molly, she's a diabetic. Now, in the present day, we can understand why she was so aggressive toward the dead doctor due to what happened in the past. Once the group finally get back to the mansion after Crawford, after Lee was finishing his conversation with Vernon, we see Molly trying to head out. As Lee spots her, he questions her where she plans to go. Molly then saying that she's planning to leave because she had second thoughts about getting on the boat, it being
Oh, right. Yeah, she leaves after this. When it comes to she like leaves, we never see her again. The boat idea wasn't
overcrowded, and knowing herself that she does better by herself. With that, she tells Lee to take care of Clementine since she knows he means the world to her and that she also reminds her of herself. After this, Molly heads downstairs, and thus we never get to see Molly again for the rest of the season and the series in general. If there was anyone from Telltale's The Walking Dead universe that was a mystery of where exactly they ended up, it would have to be Molly. It's not just her backstory with her sister that made her interesting, but the fact of how well she was able to handle herself when it came to survival and sheer combat. But the question that we have to ask is what would have happened if Molly did decide to stay with the group? Now with Molly staying, it does bring in a few key differences on how the story would play out. In my theory, the story would play out pretty much the same from the time Lee gets bit up until they get stuck in the attic in the mansion. During this time, the radio that Lee has goes off, and so he hears Clementine on the other side. Lee figuring out and mentioning that the guy on the radio has her at the same spot her parents go on vacation, the Marsh House. Quick side note, with this decision to go to the Marsh House and to go rooftop to head to River Street where the Marsh House is nearby, if you pay attention, the Marsh House was actually across the street from where Lee and Kenny were trying to find a boat at. You will notice plenty of signs and landmarks that showed that the same place the group were heading towards was the same place that we first meet Molly. You'll also see that where Lee was fighting off the Walker horde by himself, you would see the same dead sign that we see in episode 4, with the marsh house being essentially down the street from them. What I'm trying to say is that it sucks to know that Clementine would have already met her parents, and the stranger for that matter, if Lee remembered where he was on the map. Clementine herself, before Lee and Kenny went out, said that where they were heading, her parents shouldn't be that far from there.
We can do both. Ben, you take one last look around the place. Grab anything that looks useful, while me and Kenny go down to the river to get us a boat.
Wait, can't I come? My mom and dad can't be far now. Maybe we can look for them on the way to the river.
Which she was right. So imagine everything from that point onward could have been avoided. Lee getting bit, Clementine never being captured by the stranger, Lee perhaps not dying, and everyone else more.
I forgot what the hell that guy's problem was with why so weird and shit.
More than likely being alive or not missing. Anyways, back to Molly. With the team going to River Street, having Molly in the group, I believe she would be a great asset considering her knowledge of where everything is in Savannah and the Bells. My theory is she would suggest going by herself to get to one of the Bells to help the group get into the marsh house safely without having to deal with any walkers. Kenny most likely would still go missing, whether it would be trying to save Ben or save Krista, due to the amount of time it would take Molly to get to one of the bell towers to have the walkers move from one spot to another. In terms of having Lee get to the marsh house, I believe otherwise. With the location where the group is, that being at River Street, it would make sense for Molly to use the same bell that she used in episode 4 where Kenny and Lee were heading to River Street. If you remember, that same bell allowed the walkers to go west from the marsh house.
Son of a bitch. That bastard's fucking with us again. It's another trap.
No, listen. That's not the same bell as before. This one's further off. Whatever it is, it's gonna get the dead moving over there.
What in the hell is going on?
With that leaves it to where even though Lee ends up on the street after crossing the Maccabee sign, the scene where he goes through multiple walkers to get to the marsh house wouldn't even be a thing due to the bell tower Molly rings. If any walkers were to be there, it would be very few. Given the fact that Lee wouldn't have to deal with the walkers before and after the marsh house, leaves Lee with a bit more energy than he originally had in the main story. With this though, it would make it to where Lee and Clementine wouldn't know about the trick that being covered in walker guts makes it to where the walkers wouldn't be able to sense you. This not being a need to know since there wouldn't be hardly any walkers around to get all the blood and guts onto them. There are a few things that could happen because of Molly ringing the bells. One being the fact that Lee could either still pass out, making to where Clementine drags him into the nearby jewelry store to keep him away from walkers, or since there hardly would be anything around, she could try to wake Lee up in the middle of the street. Either way, Clementine could still help him get inside a nearby store. And 2, Clementine wouldn't actually see her parents. After leaving the marsh house like she does in the original story, because of all them moving to the nearby bell tower. With that being the case, it's hard to really say whether or not Clementine would still be adamant about finding her parents still, or give up on the idea that they are even there to begin with completely due to Lee's situation with the bite and the fact that he's dying. So it's fair to say that either way you go about it, Lee would still end up dying. I do, however, see that perhaps after
Jane. These videos have been pretty good. I might could have been great in the head. I saw that one on Bonnie. Fucking Kenny's awesome. He is a piece of shit, but goddamn. Ben's most. You know what? I'll check this one out. Random black guy, Mike. He could have been interesting. Could have been useful. Help us out.
It disappoints me how there are a few characters in Season 2 that I feel as though definitely had a lot of potential to become great characters. And one of those characters is Mike. Though we only get to witness him in action for the latter half of Season 2, he demonstrated some qualities about him that gave off potential to become something greater. Of course, obviously, there being a few key factors as to why he didn't make the mark. So for today, I want to go over as to how Mike could have been a great character in Season 2 of Telltale's The Walking Dead. Now, the first introduction that we get of Mike is when our main group arrive at House after getting captured by Carver. We see him scoff the group out for making too much noise, as well as if you try to interact with him during the same time, Mike gets irritated telling you to get lost. Despite
Wave shoots now. Yeah, I guess because like it couldn't. Well, I'm guessing like couldn't have another good. Can't have another good black. Mm-hmm. Who's the other guy? Luke. Who's the other one? Luke was cool. The guy who fucked up a lot. Nick. Damn. Oh, fucking asshole. Nick. You could have been. You could have been. The Jan. Jane. Yeah, Jan.
Mike being very standoffish, we do get informed by Reggie that Mike was the one that saved his life, in regards to him getting bitten and cutting his arm off to prevent him from turning. We do get an idea that Mike is not all bad. Knowing the story, we do see him and the rest of the group leave House successfully after discussing how to leave. Eventually, everyone meeting up at Parker's Run. The best way I can describe Mike as a character is that he's more so the backbone of the group. There's quite a few things that he does that deem him more so to be a helpful teammate, but doesn't get that much recognition for doing such things since he's a side character. For example, him carrying the water after Clementine and Bonnie decided to the nearby museum to see if the area is safe for Rebecca to have her baby. Another being where he can either decide to help Sarah or Kenny, or take the water back to the observation deck for Rebecca to use, any of these three choices being a help to the group in one way or another, in addition to looking after AJ at times when it mattered. Which I wish they could have extended the scene of him and Kenny taking out the walkers a little longer, because to be honest, it was pretty badass seeing those two side by side for a moment. Furthermore, I don't know if you guys noticed, but going back and replaying Season 2, I've come to a realization that Mike is unironically hilarious. You can tell personality wise, the guy is very.
Also, they have obviously. I think they have a lot of these scenes because I think they're like season 2 characters, usually DLC characters, side character. I guess I have them there often. Hey, you did something with her, and you helped out. But not gonna lie, that scene with Kenny and Michael's pretty fucking cool. Taking out those walkers.
Very laid back and down to earth, but at the same time is very funny.
Actually, I do it all the time.
First words I ever hear you say, and it's just some crazy, stupid shit. Crap!
So the knee is about halfway down the leg.
Yeah, okay.
Clem found a jacket.
That's great, but isn't Gray the, we can't put Rebecca in a Confederate coat.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Guess it's better than nothing, though.
It just walked on in like it owned the place. Figure it'd make a nice meal. We can eat raccoon?
I'd eat the shit out of that raccoon. Not like, I mean, just that I'd be really happy to eat that raccoon. I'm starving.
They're climbing up. What? They're gonna make it up here. Fuck! Drop the deck.
Drop the... Are you fucking crazy? Clem, why don't you give her that coat we found? Sorry, about the color.
You really think I care about that?
You all right here?
Yeah. Go on and talk to him. I got Clem if I need anything.
Okay.
Here, just take the baby.
Okay.
See if you can calm him down a bit.
No, that's all you.
But the thing that made Mike from becoming something greater for his character is 1. Lack of screen time, 2. Arvo, and 3. Poor writing. Starting with Arvo, to recap for those who need a refresher, Arvo is technically supposed to be the second villain in Season 2 after Carver. While Jane and Clementine were at the observation deck checking to see if the spot was actually good for the crew and Rebecca to crash at, we see
wasn't Arvo like stealing goods and shit?
Arvo come by throwing out what we see later is medicine into the garbage can. Clementine and Jane apprehend Arvo, as well as the medicine. Arvo claims that the medicine is for his sick sister, and so he pleads with both of them to not take the medicine from the bag. And so the choice of whether or not to take the medicine is in play, which in the end doesn't matter whether or not you take it, because later on the crew encounter Arvo's group, and thus eventually get into a shootout with each other.
Yeah, these guys have like fucking AKs. It's like the first time we've seen anyone with AKs, I think, besides Carver's. And it made sense. Carver's group had, they had a hardware store, they had, a magazine, pulling bullets, and who are these random fucking Russian guys with AKs who can't shoot shit? They're like, the shooting, they miss all the characters, they miss all the fucking zombies. I'm like, what the hell? You have fully automatic Kalashnikovs, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Unless somehow they know how, unless they have some type of tool or something to go from the fully automatic in the middle, then semi at the bottom. It would just be semi-automatic, they don't got fully automatic.
His group gets injured, like Luke getting shot and Rebecca dying from blood loss. Arvo's group is no longer a threat as they all are dead, including his sister. From this point on, Arvo claims that he has a house that has food in it for them to take from, and so the group follow himself. From that point on to them getting to the house, Mike has this sort of weird relationship with Arvo in which any instance of him getting hurt physically or verbally, whether from Kenny or whoever, he's right there to defend Arvo. For argument's sake, let's give Arvo the benefit of the doubt. Now, I do have a theory in regards to Arvo and the main reason as to why everything happened since he encountered Clementine and Jane. My theory is that Arvo was throwing out the medicine in the garbage not to actually throw it out, but to hide it from his own group, the same people that were at the shootout. The reason I say this is that I believe that the group that he was with wanted the medicine more so for drug use, and so Arvo was just stashing meds for him and his sister for later use for themselves. Since you can see later on that his sister, the person he said was sick, is clearly not, as she participates in the shootout. The only explanation I can give in regards to why the choice to keep the medicine or leave it is practically useless, since we encounter the Russian group anyway, is that Arvo claims that the medicine was stolen by Clementine's group regardless to save his own skin. So maybe Arvo the whole time was trying to de-escalate the whole situation by making it to where his group steal our main group's things, whole time playing along so that in the end he can keep the medicine that he took from. Or perhaps Mike and the others saw through the...
I mean, I think he's just saving his own fucking skin. He's like, I'm gonna throw you guys under the bus and like, hey, I was on your guys' side. I'm Russian just like you. Ha 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 ha. I don't want to get killed. I don't want to use, drugs and death.
Plan, or since his sister did die in the shooting, that they have sympathy for him. Overall, it's still hard to believe. If you really sit and think about it, this random guy comes and walks towards your group, claiming that your group can help his group, lies about his sister being sick, lies about being hurt, thus ambushes your group with his, Which, by the way, this action to go bullet for bullet with each other in the shootout is the main reason as to why his sister got killed. With all that,
And all those
going back
zombies
to
come.
Mike, who got shot in the process of that, still defends the guy. This leading to my point of where the poor writing comes into play, which makes the relationship with Mike defending Arvo even greater due to the narrative Season 2 story, where Kenny is the bad guy, and so let's make everyone either die or somehow someway paint it to be like that to have a final showdown with him and Jane, which that fight in itself doesn't make sense, but I digress. It's just with defending Arvo from the start, where Mike first meets him, going to him multiple times to take care of him, travel all the way to his house for supplies, and which costed Luke's life, coddled him again, to then finally decide to betray the group by attempting to leave in the same truck Kenny got working to go with Arvo and Bonnie. Oh, I forgot to mention that this same kid shoots Clementine to escape, probably in a means to get revenge for his sister. Yet you say that this same kid went through so much already.
I'm gonna have a word with Kenny. He doesn't have to treat him that way. Kid's been through enough.
If you want a great example of someone who's been through a lot, how about Clementine? But that's
Yeah, I mean, Clementine is a kid who's gone through so much shit from season 1 and season 2, and she gets fucking shot and she almost died. If fucking Arvo, you know, aimed a little bit higher, she would have had a bullet in her neck.
another topic for another time.
Maybe head too.
It just really disappointed me because the guy was cool up until the point where Arvo came into the picture and practically ruined his character to have him betray the group in the end. Plus, there was some things missing that I feel should have been brought up sometime from first meeting Mike. One being his backstory, and even to this day, I'm curious on what happened for him to get to Hal's, as well as what happened to his ear. Overall, what could have made Mike a great...
They mentioned that, right? The reason his injured ear traces back to the original storyline in season 2 and episode 1. They just were ambushed by... Oh yeah, that's right, they were ambushed in the woods. Group tactics including Ralph, Winston. Jesus. Fuck is Ralph. Wait. This is Ralph? Fuck. Wait, there was another black guy? Oh man, I do not remember this black guy at all. I remember him. I remember this guy. Let's see. This dude. I remember this motherfucker. Yeah, I do. Kind of remember him now, but yeah, it doesn't really fucking matter. I mean, just some random motherfucker. Who gives a fuck? Alright. I guess this guy. Takes fucking Victor. I need to look up the fucking names, man. Because there's some dudes I do not remember at all. Victor? Oh, that's Victor? Fucking weird with that. I remember Victor now. Apparently, Victor who lay shoots Ralph. I'm gonna do one more video of a misunderstood character, Nick. I don't like Sarah. I don't like Jane. Man, it seems like all the female characters are really bad, except for Carla. It was great. Larry was a piece of shit, but he made sense. I mean, same with Ben, same with Lee, same with Kenny. Bonnie was fine until she backstabbed you. I mean, she was all right. No, Carver was fucking amazing. I still think he is the best villain of the entire Walking Dead game.
I had to kill my mom. Sounds weird when I say it out loud, huh?
Not anymore. On the zombie apocalypse.
I mean, what's the point? We'll
We'll march to some new place and somebody else will die. It's never gonna stop. Eventually, it'll be our turn. I can't believe we've been here a day. A day. It's been a day, right?
Is Nick misunderstood as a character? Well, looking back at season 2, Nick at first didn't really seem to be all that much, but as I got to understand him a tad better, I realized that analyzing him would actually deem to be rather interesting. So let's get into why I think Nick is misunderstood as a character in season 2 of Telltale's The Walking Dead. The first appearance of Nick in season 2 is when the cabin group get introduced to Clementine, but rather in a more
I remember that guy.
as a character in season 2 of Telltale's The Walking Dead.
Wait.
First appearance
I remember him. He was a bitch. AJ Jr., Luke, Nick, Becca, and he's the guy he looks up, right?
of Nick in season 2 is when the cabin group get introduced to Clementine, but rather in a more dire situation since Clementine was bit by a dog earlier, and so the cabin group decide what would be the best course of action. First impressions of Nick is that we get to see that he's a bit hot-headed, stubborn, and doesn't like being bossed around by people. We get to really understand a bit more.
Can't remember his name. He was pretty good, but I think he died. When did he died? I think he can die during like Carver's like escape, because it could be. I think it might have been. I know his wife died. I think she died. I think he dies at the same time as his kid dies. Sarah, I can't. Look, damn man, you make me want to play this game again, dog.
More after the group discovered that Clementine wasn't bit and take her inside the house to treat her injury. As Luke and Clementine get to know each other at the table, Nick comes into the room and proceeds to ask Clementine to forgive him of his actions, saying that he went a bit aggro and he shouldn't have come across as that direct towards her.
I just want to say I'm sorry for being a dick out there. I got kind of aggro, and that was definitely not cool.
Nick's been known to go off every once in a while. Don't hold it against him.
Yeah, I guess we all have our moments.
Further on, we get informed that Nick lost his mother to a similar situation where the group tried to help a bitten victim, which the person eventually turned, thus infecting Nick's mother, who the group had to shoot her.
Well, I didn't mean to be so harsh. I just... we had a bad experience once.
We've all had bad experiences.
Nick lost his mom. We took care of someone who got bit.
It was my fault.
It was no one's fault. We thought we could control it, but we couldn't. And then she turned, and his mom was standing right there, and she got attacked. And there was nothing we could do about it.
Anyway, hopefully you understand.
So really, Clementine's arrival to the cabin group reminded Nick of his mother, and in this explaining why he was so adamant of why the group wasn't going to put Clementine down, he and the rest.
Okay, now that makes sense. I don't remember that. Like, it's been a long time since I played season. Like, I remember, like, you know, I remember season 1, 2, 3, and 4. I remember season 3 being pretty bad. I remember I rejected the shit out of that one. Everyone like fuck her behind her husband back. I'm like, no, bitch.
So the group thought that she was bitten by a walker, and I'm sure Nick was persuaded by Pete, his uncle, which we find later on that they're both related, that he told Nick to apologize to Clementine since he was still in a bad headspace even after Clementine came inside the house.
Personal with you.
Why are you always giving me a hard time?
Because you're always giving everyone else a hard time.
I apologized already. She accepted.
Okay, well, I didn't know that.
So it seems at first that the death of his mother is one of the main reasons as to why he's so aggressive, but really it's just the first out of many reasons as to why he's the way that he is. After Nick's apology towards Clementine and the conversation with Clementine and Luke, Pete comes into the room and suggests that the group should go out to gather fish for dinner for the next day. So the group does just that. Pete, Clementine, and Nick, with their supplies, head on to the river, and during the time of them walking to the river, Pete starts talking to Clementine about the time when Nick was her age, that him and Nick were both hunting for buck, and that in the end, Nick ultimately didn't have the courage to shoot. Thus, after hearing that, Nick gets frustrated with his uncle and both get into a little heated argument with each other. which the argument ends after Nick grabs Pete's rifle and goes ahead of both Pete and Clem to the river. But what Pete says afterwards, finishing his story of Nick and the buck, is interesting, saying that sometimes you have to play a role even if people hate you for it.
Sometimes you gotta play a role, even if it means people you love hate you for it.
He then tells Clementine that Nick's father wasn't around much at all, and that even if he was for a period of time, he was an asshole when he was present, leaving Pete to be that father figure for Nick, trying to raise him right, being a little hard on him because of his father not being there for him.
Nick's father wasn't there much, and he was a piece of shit when he was. So it fell to me to keep him in line, raise him right. Meant I couldn't just be nice Uncle Pete.
Which just makes a lot of sense as to why Nick behaves the way that he does. Not having a father, especially for his son, can be very damaging for the kid, due to him not being able to learn key valuable things like respect, handling their emotions, what it means to be a leader, etc. Though a single parent is capable of teaching that, whether male or female, it's significantly harder, and plus the sheer presence of that parental figure being there has a huge impact of the child's development. Nick then yells out to his uncle, witnessing a group murder by the riverside. The three decide to check the bodies to see if any of them are still alive to give them information as to what happened to them. As the group spread out to check further, Pete shoots and yells out after getting attacked by Walker, in which we then see that he ended up getting bit. Because of the shot Pete took, walkers end up attacking the three, and so Clementine, being in the middle of the riverside, can choose whether or not to go with Nick or Pete. For now, we'll go with if Clementine decided to go with Nick for context. Clementine goes with Nick, and later on we see that the two end up being trapped in a shed in the middle of the woods. And so the two decide to wait until the walkers stray away from the area for them to leave later on. During this time though, we see that Nick is very much in a deep depression as he portrays this sense of dread.
Yeah, I don't think I ever did this. I don't think I ever, I think it's because I just didn't like Nick. I never have much sympathy. Outside, he's an idiot. Especially that one moment where he shoots that one guy on the... I think that's what made me hate him.
And despair in his expression. Also questioning Clementine as to why she decided to go with him instead of his uncle. Afterwards, we do see a time skip as the day turns into night, telling us that it's been a while since the two have resided in the building. As it's nighttime, we see that Nick is throwing whiskey bottles, as it seems as though he took an interest in them earlier in the day. He continuously throws the bottles towards the wall due to him being drunk and overall frustrated at what took place. As he settles down, Nick confesses to Clementine that he was the one that had to shoot his mom after the incident with her returning from the bite victim. We also find out that him and Luke have planned a sort of entrepreneurial arrangement together in hopes of making a breakthrough. Long story short, we find out that they both didn't exactly make a breakthrough, and thus Nick says that after 6 months, the two were flat broke, but despite that, he still had fun. In addition, he goes on to say that he doesn't know how Luke is able to move on so fast. For himself, he says he's not built like that, and wishes he were like Luke. Further confessing to Clementine that it's over for both of them, and that everything they're doing won't matter since they'll all die in the end anyways.
Luke always used to push me. I never wanted to go into business with him. I remember when he sold me on it. His big plan. Some fucking plan.
So Luke and Nick are friends.
He said, Nick, we're burning daylight. And that was that. After 6 months, we were flat broke. I didn't care. We were having fun. I wish I was like him. I wish I could just keep moving all the time. I'm just not built like that. Everyone I grew up with, it all happened to them. Now, it's gonna happen to us.
Up until this point in the story, what we learn is that Nick's mother is dead and that he was the one that shot her after she turned from the incident the group had a father before the outbreak that wasn't presently there for him, and when he was, his presence was with ill intent, and that his only family that he had left, his uncle, died right in front of him. And so now he doesn't know what to do with himself and is ultimately directionless and lacks purpose. With all this, it reminds me strongly of what happened to Kenny in Season 1. Lost his whole family and didn't know what to do with himself, no drive, no purpose, no meaning in his life anymore. And so Kenny also tried to drink his problems away, and like Nick, said, why keep going? They're screwed.
Wasted's not gonna help anyone.
Yeah? Well, what is? We are fucked! Molly said there's not a single boat left in Savannah. No way out. We got walkers all around us, that crazy fuck on the radio messing with us. Hell, if now ain't the time for a drink?
Obviously, later on in the story, Kenny slowly starts finding some drive and meaning as the group.
Yeah. And it is very much very similar to Kenny and Nick, but obviously a lot better.
Find a boat, and even despite what
Which
happened to the boat, he found another drive to keep him going, which was helping Lee find Clementine. So Nick's situation is very similar to Kenny's in that regard. It's not just with Nick losing everything, but also the fact that now, after losing Pete, he now has been put in a situation where he has to be his own man now and make his own decisions for himself without any guidance. Which we see later on, he displays the effects of that by acting even more of a loose cannon. A great example being not too long after the incident with Clem and Nick getting stuck in the cabin and Carver scouting out the home when the group were out, Nick ends up shooting Matthew, a guy on the bridge Clementine and Luke ran into while checking to see if the bridge is safe for the rest of the group to pass through. Nick saying that he did it to protect them when clearly he didn't have enough of a reason as to really shoot him in the first place.
The worst part, like shooting that guy by a lot of Walker, but also he lost a good gun. He lost like an M14. But his little shitty hunting rifle.
The thing that I would like to add is that I firmly believe that Nick has unironically decided to look to Luke as not much as a father figure, but seeking traits of a leader. You will notice that some of the things that Nick says towards Luke are actually quite the same things that he used to say to his Uncle Pete.
You know, Nick, I don't like this either. But sooner or later, you're gonna have to realize a simple truth.
What, that you're an asshole?
That nobody in this world is ever gonna give a goddamn whether you like something or not. You gotta grow up, son.
I don't know. Looked like he had a gun on you. That asshole drew on me. He was about to shoot.
Oh, was he?
I'm telling you, man, he drew first.
Well, that's not what it looked like to me.
Fuck you, Luke. You've been on my case the whole week.
And why do you think that is, Nick?
Because you're an asshole?
He wasn't gonna do anything.
I know what I saw.
So I believe that Nick subconsciously saw Luke as someone to help guide him in a way, despite him not liking some of the things that he says that more than likely would help him become a better man. Would you see that Nick had his moments where he was able to own up to his mistakes, like talking to Luke and Carlos after crossing the bridge, and confessing to Walter, a member of Kenny's group that we met at the ski lodge, that he killed Matthew. But what's truly unfortunate for Nick's character is that we don't really get to see any change of development for him, since after episode 2, he essentially is a background character until episode 4, where we see that he out of nowhere just dies and turns into a walker as seen by Clementine and Jane as they were searching for Nick, Luke, and Sarah after the walker horde escaping house. So we really don't get to see any sort of change or anything from Nick becoming a man.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. He just dies randomly, even if you do save him.
Or seeing him grow into a leader per se, since before the development of his character even starts to happen, season 2 decided to kill him off. For me, in my head canon, likelihood is that Nick wanted to play step up in a way and try to save Sarah and Luke from getting caught by walkers. And so odds are he went out to distract or fight off walkers, which led him to be in the spot that he was when Clem and Jane found him. But I'm not sure. And the game,
like, they could have done something. I mean, I understand, he's an asshole, he fucked up, save him, and maybe being saved, at the end of like getting part of season 2, here in the camp, and later on, he becomes a valued member, just like Luke. Them two are like buddies together. They could have done that. Hey, your buddies, kicking ass together. No, they don't do that.
The game doesn't give us any inclination or explanation of what really happened to him. Overall, with Nick's character, it's easy for everyone to hate on him and see him as someone who is incapable of making
Here's another wasted. He's wasted. The guy I can't remember what's his name. Name from like the cannibal, Walking Dead cannibals. Sorry for help. Yeah. Um, very. Travis. Mac. Yeah, he died. Yeah, he. Yeah, Mark was cool. He came out of nowhere. He was like he seemed pretty useful, and then he gets his legs chopped off and he dies. Mark could have been useful too.
Making clear formed decisions that can benefit him or the group, which is fair considering he does a lot of things quite the opposite. But it's less him and more so his upbringing. Due to not having a present father in his life and that said father not being fun to be around when he was present, growing up made him even more angry, aggressive, have a lack of respect, stubbornness, and more. And even though his uncle stepped up to the plate to care for Nick, it's not quite the same like having his actual father around. In addition to having to shoot his mother after the incident with her, that must have taken a turn on him mentally. Plus, looking at his long-term friend made him even feel lesser since he's not built like Loot to keep going despite horrible events happening. Ultimately, despite his faults, Nick did realize at times that maybe he was losing it, and that he was slowly trying to grow up in a way where he can handle his business as a young man and own up to his mistakes and grow from them. In the end, Nick just needed someone to help guide him in the right direction when it came to being a man, even though he had Pete, which he soon realized he took him for granted.
Oh yeah, Rebecca's dead. I just feel like he doesn't get anything. I feel like he doesn't get a chance. I feel like he doesn't get a nice. Hey, I want to tell this guy, Manny, you're doing a good job, my friend. Bravo to you, bravo to you. Be an awesome, cool guy. Now I'm gonna raid out. Now I'm gonna raid out. Who am I gonna raid out? Who deserves to raid? Who deserves to raid? Let's see. Is there anyone? Alright, we'll be rating Hill Sliders, playing Blacklock, Sparkle, or something like that. Oh, that game. Deep Rock Galactic. Thank you guys so much for being here. Hope you guys do enjoy me doing these streaming with reactions. Hopefully tomorrow I can go back and play some games. I'm gonna double check and make sure my Fallout New Vegas DLC is working. Get back into Neo, get back into Yakuza, Dragon Age, that type of stuff. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you guys. Hopefully you guys are having a fun time, an enjoyable time. It's not easy doing this type of stuff. So I need you kind of people to be here talking to me, being part of the and dynamics and all those stuff. Thank you guys so much. Please don't forget your support, your donations, your Twitch subs, all those type of things. Thank you guys so much. Goodbye. Bye bye, and have a nice time.